Congressman, have you ever gotten this much attention for a hearing before?
No, actually, I'm somewhat surprised by it. I'm a little disappointed in part of the hysterical reaction to the hearing, but the positive side of that is I think more people are going to watch it now, and they're going to be, I think, very pleased and surprised by what they see. And I say pleased in that it's going to be, I think, a very informational type hearing, but surprised when they see the intensity of emotion coming from the witnesses who are going to be talking about the radicalization in their community.
The topic of your hearing is radicalization in the American Muslim community. What are you trying to accomplish?
Several things. One, the same thing that Dennis McDonough, the President's Deputy National Security Advisor, was doing on Sunday. That's to alert the country to the fact that there's been a concerted effort, a change in strategy by al-Qaeda to recruit and to radicalize Muslim Americans in this country. They realize they can't attack us from the outside the way they did before, so now they're attempting to radicalize and recruit people from within the Muslim community who are living here legally and are under the radar screen. That's number one. Number two is to generate support in the Muslim American community itself to get more responsible leaders to come forward. I think it's wrong that a group like CARE, which is an unindicted co-conspirator in a major terrorist financing case, ends up being a spokesman for the Muslim community. I think they need much better spokesmen to come forward, and also to realize the importance of cooperating more with law enforcement than they have up till now.
Muslim leaders say that you're demonizing one group of people and that instead of encouraging them to come forward, what you're going to do is make them more isolated.
Yeah, I don't accept that. We've had 9.5 years now, and you have to take action. And the fact is, if we, I believe that the overwhelming majority of Muslim Americans are outstanding Americans, and I want to encourage them to look for radicalization in their community, to speak out against it, to denounce it, and not allow themselves to be brought into this, behind this defensive perimeter that so many of their leaders, such as CARE, have set up. And I don't believe that a patriotic Muslim American is not going to cooperate because I'm holding a hearing. And the only ones who are creating this illusion of demonization are the radical Muslim leaders themselves, such as CARE, who say that's what the hearing is about. I would have hoped that when I announced the hearing, they would have come forward to me and said, we want to work with you.
But it's far from just CARE. I mean, there was a letter that went out to you just yesterday from 40 or 50 liberal groups saying that while we all take the threat of terrorism seriously, we see no productive outcome in singling out a particular community for examination in what appears to be little more than a political show trial.
Yeah, well, I lost too many friends and neighbors on September 11th to have a bunch of liberals accuse me of using it for political reasons. But the reason we are focusing on the Muslim American community, in Dennis McDonough's speech on Sunday night, the only community he mentioned was the Muslim American community, because that's what al-Qaeda is attempting to radicalize.
But he went out to talk to them to say, hey, whatever you're hearing about this hearing that's being held, we're on your side and we're not demonizing you. It seemed like he was almost paving the way for this hearing, knowing that it was going to create a backlash.
Well, let's look at two parts of it. On the facts he gave, he said al-Qaeda has made a change in strategy. They are attempting to radicalize the Muslim American community. He said, in the past, we did not think that could happen, but that was a false hope and a false comfort. The threat is real. So that is the same thing I'm saying. Mm-hmm. As far as demonizing the community, I agree. I'm not demonizing the community either. I've said over and over again, the overwhelming majority of Muslims are good Americans. But the threat is coming from within that community.
So then why is one of your fellow congressmen, Keith Ellison, who is a Muslim, calling this McCarthyism? And he's far from the only one. This is being called a witch hunt. Mm-hmm. Are you a modern-day Joe McCarthy?
What I am doing is I am a modern-day American who realizes the threat we face. And no one is going to be unjustly attacked. The facts are going to be accurate. I'm facing the reality that's out there in the community. The Attorney General said he stays awake at night. He can't sleep because of the growing threat of radicalization.
So then why not have him testify? You don't have anyone from law enforcement testifying.
Because, first of all, people, I think, have heard enough of government officials. I'm having real people on the ground. I think people's eyes glaze over when they start listening to government officials, including listening to me. I'm going to have people who live in the Muslim community, who have been personally affected by this. So the average American out there watching this, rather than seeing bureaucrats or people reading prepared testimony, are going to hear people who have suffered, hear them speaking from the heart, see what they've gone through, see what's happened to them and their members of the family and other people in their communities.
When you hear yourself being compared to Joe McCarthy, does that make you recoil? Does it make you think, maybe I should have come at this from a different direction?
No, when I see the people who are attacking me, I'm gratified. When I have the New York Times attacking me in an editorial, I know I'm doing the right thing. When I have all these left-wing groups attacking me, I feel I'm doing the right thing.
It doesn't trouble you at all?
Absolutely not. To me, it's a badge of honor to be attacked by the likes of these people.
Do you align yourself with Joe McCarthy?
I align myself with the truth. And this has nothing to do with Joe McCarthy, or it has nothing to do with internment camps or any of the other stuff I've heard about. But to have a bunch of liberal, left-wing groups attack me, I expect that. That, to me, proves I'm doing the right thing.
One of your central arguments has been that members of the Muslim community aren't coming forward when they see that someone in their midst has been radicalized. What's your evidence for that? Because the FBI actually tells us that they're getting a lot of cooperation from the Muslim community, that they have outreach programs, that it's leading to tips, that it's leading to stings, that, you know, they're getting cooperation. The
cooperation that would be gotten, to the extent it exists, does come from family members, and that's why I'm having family members testifying on Thursday. However, they do not get the support in too many cases from the Muslim leadership in the community. Instead, we'll have testimony that actually imams and mosques tell them not to cooperate, try to obstruct the investigations, threaten those who come forward. And I can tell you, I deal with the police in New York City, Nassau County, Suffolk County, all the time. Go to the fusion centers, meet with them on a regular basis. They do not get the level of cooperation, if any. Nassau County Police Department has not gotten one tip in 9 years. Suffolk County Police Department has not gotten one tip in 9 years. But there are mosques under surveillance on Long Island. We've had terrorists on Long Island. We had Venus, who went to Afghanistan, who was captured fighting alongside Al-Qaeda. I've been in 2 mosques on Long Island. They knew of his conduct. They knew he'd gone to Afghanistan. Nobody told the police, even though we have these community outreach programs with the police constantly meeting with people in the mosque. Nobody told them this at all.
But do you worry that maybe you're not the right person to hold these hearings, that you might not be the poster child for encouraging the Muslim community to come forward when you've made statements in the past saying, for example, that 80% of the Muslim community is extremist, things like that, that perhaps inflame relations rather than improve relations with law enforcement?
No, I think people have to speak the truth. And
you think 80% of the Muslim community is extremist?
I made that comment in 2004. I was citing Sheikh Kabani, who had been brought in to testify before a State Department forum on the issue of radicalization in the Muslim American community. He was a leader of a prominent national Muslim organization. He believed that more than 80% of the mosques in America, more than 80% of the mosques were controlled by extremists. And what he was doing was making the distinction between the average rank-and-file Muslim and the leadership in the mosques, which a number of us believe have been unduly influenced by money from Saudi Arabia, and they do not reflect the rank-and-file members in the mosques. And I hear that from Muslims. I deal with Muslims all the time.
What have Republican leaders said to you about your hearing? Because publicly they're kind of keeping their distance.
Well, first of all, they're focusing on the budget. They stay on message. John Boehner stays on message. I know Eric Cantor put out a statement supporting me. But I don't, Homeland Security is a separate issue. And right now, John Boehner and the Republican leaders are involved in pretty intense negotiations with the Democrats over the budget and the continuing resolution and the deficit. I don't expect them to, this is my committee, my hearing. John Boehner knew where I was going when he supported me to become chairman of the committee, and that's what I'm doing.
You've talked a lot about how you used to actually have very good relationships with the Muslim community, especially in your district. What changed?
Oh, I did have very good relations. I traveled to Kosovo and to Macedonia and to Bosnia on behalf of the Muslim community when there were no votes in it for me. In fact, I was the only Republican, maybe one of 2 Republicans, who supported Bill Clinton when he sent troops into the Balkans to protect the Muslims, and when he had airstrikes over Kosovo and, on behalf of the Muslims. I was the one who voted with Bill Clinton on those issues. And I had young students from the mosque interning in my office. I socialized with people in the Muslim community, spoke at mosques often. After September 11th, as far as my local relationships, people I thought I knew, people who were very prominent in the Muslim community, were denying Al-Qaeda was involved in the 9/11 attacks. They said it could have been Jews, it could have been the CIA, it could have been the FBI, and not one Muslim leader on Long Island rebutted them. There was deafening silence on that. So that's when I first began to realize that there was more here going on than maybe I had suspected over the years. So then, and now also losing so many people on Long Island. I mean, in my district alone, there was almost 150 on Long Island, which was all within like 40, 50 miles of my house. We lost Long Island and Queens, Staten Island, over 1,000 people, and I knew so many of them. So I followed this issue for the last 9.5 years. In doing that, I feel that there is a radicalization attempt going on, and we've seen evidence of it, and there is not the sufficient cooperation.
Why not hold a hearing about radicalization in all religions? Is that just so broad that you think you wouldn't net the kind of information that you need?
Well, as chairman of the Homeland Security Committee, we have to do a threat analysis. And when you look at it, there is no threat coming from members of other religions other than acting as individuals. We're talking about a threat here which is being supported by an international enemy of the United States. It's an enemy which has already killed thousands of Americans. We've seen instances, again, just in the last year and a half, we had an attempted subway bombing in Nassau County from a Muslim living legally in this country who was recruited, a Times Square bombing, we had Major Hassan. There's been over 50 homegrown terrorists in this country alone over the last 2 years. And this is Eric Holder saying this.
This is an issue that you're so passionate about. Are you concerned that all the tempers that have flared over this issue and the protests and all the attention it's getting could actually cause it to backfire, that the intelligence community could receive fewer tips because Muslims feel like they're being demonized?
Well, the only reason any Muslim would feel that way is if they're listening to what's said in the media and being said by their own leaders. If their leaders had come forward early on and said, we want to cooperate, I don't think you would be getting that reaction. But I don't think that a patriotic Muslim is going to refuse to cooperate because I hold a hearing. And the fact is that I also believe in a democracy, the way you address an issue and address the problems, but all the facts out there and let the American people decide. If I'm hearing from people who I trust that there is a problem, that there is an issue, and I don't address it, then how are the American people going to comprehend it, and how are they going to stand together to address it?
What kind of message would you like young Muslims who might be watching this hearing to take away from it?
That the future is theirs. We look upon them to be outstanding American citizens in the future, to contribute so much to this country, and not to allow Al-Qaeda to pervert their religion and to radicalize people in their community.
Congressman, thank you so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.